The first great discovery readers accomplish when reading through this is grasping the absurd. Franz Kafka's stylistic writing is so strangely absorbing, and right from the point where most start, this trait is obvious and transparent, because few can write about such absurd yet thoughtful subjects while managing not to bore. When Kafka does it, he takes advantage of unaltered yet uneven precision. The way he puts together a sentence leaves room for no defect. However, his observations and narrative perspectives seem rooted in the most naive and pure form of human spirit. Even when you barely grip what you're going into and what Kafka is trying to portray by this collection of bizarre images and descriptions, you keep reading because it arouses fascination. And yes, it does so by seeming and being to somewhat degree vague. But we eventually reach a point where you realize that Franz Kafka is a very careful composer. His work has various facets that are revealed to the reader only by understanding and connecting them to personal experience. As such, each reader has a personal hold on what he reads. The Metamorphosis starts with one of the most well-known paragraphs in world literature. And even though these first few lines manage to comprise so much, I believe the ending of the novella is so much more intriguing. Partly because it is among the very few long stories Kafka considered complete and even published during his lifetime, but more so for the implications it suggests, and for the fact that we'll never know Kafka's own view on it. All the time, Grit was becoming livelier. With all the worry they had been having of late, her cheeks had become pale, but while they were talking, Mr. and Mrs. Samsa were struck, almost simultaneously, with the thought of how their daughter was blossoming into a well-built and beautiful young lady. And, as if in confirmation of their new dreams and good intentions, as soon as they reached their destination, Grit was the first to get up and stretch out her young body. It seems as though Gregor's family doesn't even try to acknowledge his tragic fate. He used to be the only financial provider of the entire home, yet his transformation into a vermin succeeds to strip off any love, gratitude, or at least empathy they once shared for a man with whom they related. Gregor was a son and brother, after all, but as time passes in his new form, they start resenting him, ultimately refusing to believe that there is any piece of the person they once knew, as Gregor left behind that odious shell. And even if they aren't truly convinced of it, they have to hold that thought in order to escape any remorse, after eventually eliminating the cause of all their recent hardships. But fortunately for them, that point is never reached because Gregor overhears them. He thought back of his family with emotion and love. If it was possible, he felt that he must go away even more strongly than his sister. Gregor unwillingly but peacefully passes away. Our last focal point remains Gret's future. Her parents notice a change in her after going through this crisis, while we see Gret turn from the only person willing to aid her changed brother into the one suggesting the idea of abolishing Gregor. Mr. and Mrs. Samsa view her change as good, as a form of maturing. Contrary to the reader, the Samsas see her flourish. Perhaps both of the main named characters suffer a metamorphosis, but Gregor's physical one is far from being as critical as the more real psychological one of Gret turning from a humane child into a judgmental adult. She leans into the virulent human trait of judging based on prejudice, only because Gregor becomes a vermin, unable to communicate, that doesn't fit into society's narrow perception of what's right and normal. She slowly ceases to perceive him as her conscious brother. He had even planned to support his sister's dream of going to music school, but it all comes to nothing. This kind of duty he has for his family, providing for them, is a major factor in Gregor's fate, and it goes to show a truth many can't accept. To some degree, people matter as long as they're somewhat useful in relation to others. Gregor fails in that aspect, considering the condition he suffers from, and add insult to injury his inability to communicate properly. But his biggest flaw really is his repulsive nature. Gregor's family is unable, if trying, of hiding the disgust and fear caused by his appearance. One day he manages to climb in a position from which he can stare out the window, act that is an important recurring motif of reflection in Kafka's work, and his sister accidentally walks in on him. Not only did she not come in, she went straight back and closed the door behind her. A stranger would have thought he had threatened her and tried to bite her. It made him realize that she still found his appearance unbearable, and would continue to do so. She probably even had to overcome the urge to flee when she saw the little bit of him that protruded from under the couch. Gregor's metamorphosis could possibly extend beyond physicality, representing his true self reaching the surface and repelling. Similar to the 90s trope of the middle-class man descending into madness, as a cause of consumerism and meaninglessness weighing in on him, Gregor Samsa is also wary of his overwhelming job and the harsh treatment of his boss, on whom he lashes out.
Tyler's words coming out of my mouth. And I used to be such a nice guy.
Well, maybe you just shouldn't bring me every little piece of trash you happen to pick up.
It all amounts to nothing as his words cease to make sense to humans. But the gist is clear. When his own disgust with the society takes over his obedience, the others become scared because they haven't reached that point themselves yet.
Can't just lump everything into these two categories and then just deny everything else.
If you don't complete the assignment, you'll get a 0 for the day. I'll tell you what he said. He asked me to forcibly insert the lifeline exercise card into my anus.
As much as Kafka likes to make his characters navigate mindlessly through ridiculous struggle, without even questioning why that is, the readers instead tend to take that role upon themselves. From cover to cover, the mind is mesmerized with all of the sense, and sometimes the seeming lack of it. Influenced by our own lenses, we feel these questions the best way each of us can. Living one novella bears so many interpretations. That is what makes the Metamorphosis such an exceptional mean of self-reflection. And if you're even somewhat familiar with Kafka's life, there's a clear echo of it surfacing. Given so, it makes you wonder how similar was his experience writing with your experience reading his work. And above all, how does it echo our own lives?